Hey everyone, this is Cindy, and this is going to be episode number 10 of the Cindy Hales Show. With this episode, I talk with Marcher Arrant. He's a walking enthusiast and graffiti guy that I discovered on Instagram, kind of from the same era as I am, kind of, I would say, like a 90s punk rock scene. He's into monikers, graffiti, train hopping, kind of a whole culture that I grew up with. And so I really like his style. It was really interesting to reach out, to meet him, to get to talk to him, and to hear about what brought about everything that he's doing. He's got some really cool projects coming up. He has some books out. So I hope you enjoyed this episode with Marcher Arrant, and check back for more episodes at cindyhales.com. As always, check out our sponsor, Sleeper Jiu Jitsu, at sleeperjj.com. But for now, just sit back and enjoy this episode with Marcher Arrant. Okay, so
Okay.
awesome. So I'm here with Marcher Arrant. I guess I'll start. I found you on Instagram. Like I like monikers on trains. I like graffiti, and somehow I stumbled across you, and
Awesome.
you're like one of my favorite graffiti guys.
No way.
Y- Yeah. So, kind of tell me, how did you get started in this? I think more than graffiti, what I think drew me to you is you do your walking.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked it like that because yeah, it's all like one thing for me, like the walking, the graffiti, and actually the walking like predates the graffiti and everything. So it's actually a long story. I don't know how much time we got, but
We
but
have a lot of time.
awesome. I love that. Me too. I got as much time as we need. So
Perfect.
um yeah, so I got into walking really young. Like everyone, I think, like kind of walks when they're a kid and stuff. But like maybe around 10 years old, I was just drawn to like exploring my little suburb, and I remember like there was this little shopping area that was I lived on like a cul-de-sac, and there was this shopping area that was like kind of the hangout and stuff, but like I was like too young to go there, like my parents had these like rules, you got to stay in the neighborhood and whatever. But I was always drawn to that shopping area because that's where like I don't know, that's where all the bad kids were, and like people would hang out there, and just like little punk kids and little just local kind of figures, like
For
so.
real, little micro adventures, like
Yes,
you get off your
exactly.
block a little bit, make a little exploration.
Exactly. So I used to like sneak off there and just hang out with all the punk kids, the skaters, and everything. And it just kept growing from there. Like I kept going to like further and further to other neighborhoods, and yeah, and uh, yeah, it became like a thing where eventually like people would see me all the time, like walking on the side of the road and everything, and like my friends would like, "Yo, I saw you over there. Like, how'd you get there?" And I was like, "I walked there." And it became this like funny. It started becoming like an identity, like really early on, and like almost like a weird sort of pride, and like people kind of knew me for that, and it started growing from there. But yeah, I always tie it into like also like I had like a my family was like kind of dysfunctional, or like actually very dysfunctional. So like my parents were into drugs and all that shit, and so I always wanted to get out of the house, because it was like a stressful situation. And so I would just spend all my time just getting out of the house, and just yeah, exploring my neighborhood and exploring the whole city eventually. And um it was a weird thing because, well, there's this like one quote by Thoreau, is like a guy I really like a writer,
Mm-hmm.
and he talks about like walkers are born, not made. And like I really feel like I was like born like that, because like all my friends, like it just never bothered me to walk, like typically people are like tired from it, or it just seems like a burden. But like from the very beginning, it was never like that for me. It was like a fun adventure. um and even when like in high school, when people started getting cars and everything, like I was like, I'm never getting a car, like fuck that shit. And it was just this weird sort of sense of pride, walking and being like self-sufficient and everything. And whenever what's that?
Well, yeah, I noticed that right off, like following your story, kind of your sense of taking something and like turning it into an adventure, taking maybe a little hardship, like, oh, I don't have the best situation at home, but you just like went out and kind of took control and started walking around, exploring, and that definitely I'm drawn to that. I came from
Yes,
maybe a punk rock scene. I remember going out with my friends. You would just like go walk around, go find spots, go hang out,
yes,
and walk to shows, go do this.
yes.
So I definitely can relate to that. And then also just I think I've various times in my life used sport to kind of get away from situations,
Yep.
to like kind of focus my attention, like, okay, other things aren't maybe great, but I can do this one thing and focus my energy there and kind of create my own little world of like how I want to be. And so yeah, I kind of
Oh
kind
my
of
God,
see that
yes.
within you. And so yeah, I really like that. And you've
It,
taken it from walking to little skate spots or little spots to like
yep.
you've done some pretty impressive walks.
Yeah, dude, everything you just said was I feel like you get me, and I get you. Like, it was exactly like that. And like, yeah, that word spots, that was another big thing for my walking, was because I was into skateboarding. I was also into punk. And I remember reading an article, I think, about you where you talked about being like a punk and stuff. I was like, oh, that's awesome. But
Yeah, I'm from like, to date myself, I will say I graduated high school in the 92. So I was
uh-huh.
definitely in that 90s era. I was really into, I know you look at Tim Barry. I remember seeing a
Yes.
veil and I was really into the Lookout scene.
Oh my
And
God,
in the
yes.
East Bay, I used to go there some.
Oh,
Uh,
that's the mecca right there for punk, dude.
yeah, so I was really into that. I spent a summer in DC. I worked at this thing called Riot Girl Press, but mainly I just
Oh,
hung out with friends and went to shows. Um,
that's awesome. That's exactly my life. Like, I grew up in the punk scene, and also in the 90s too. Like, I graduated in 99, so oh
okay,
damn, I'm
yeah.
dating myself. Damn it. Why'd I do that?
Well, yeah, pretty similar like era. I think for me it was a really cool scene. A lot of like DIY. I was really drawn to
Yes.
that. And I kind of just like taken that attitude. It helped. I got a lot of opportunity through kind of the punk rock scene. Later I lived in
Yeah.
Olympia when K Records, Kill Rock Stars was big, Riot Girl was there, Bikini
Uh-huh.
Kill and all of that. So
Yes.
lots of cool opportunities there. And then moving over to the jujitsu scene and just kind of like, dude, it was when it was small and just kind of growing and
Yeah.
a little DIY. And so it was just like I really like that. I'm a
That's
little obsessive. And so it's like, yeah,
me
I
too.
like to find people who no matter what their projects are, it's just like they just kind of dive into it.
Yeah, hell yeah. I resonate so much with all of that. Yeah, it's funny you said the DIY thing and the punk thing, because that's actually like a huge inspiration for my walking. And like, because I was really drawn to like the squatting thing. And I remember, do you remember that book called Evasion?
No, I don't remember that one.
It was like a zine book thing. And
I'm
like
gonna
I
have to
was,
go hunt it down.
yeah, you should check it out. It's pretty cool. But like, I had
Tell
my
me
friend,
about it.
well, my friend Hisashi, he was my main friend that was like super deep into punk. Like, I kind of just got everything from him. He was like deep into the activism and
Mm-hmm.
anarchism and all this stuff. But he gave me that book, and they were talking about dumpster diving and all this stuff, and like the whole freedom aspect of it and being like self-sufficient. That was like, and the kind of adventure of like train hopping and stuff like that always
Mm-hmm.
really inspired me. And I just always wanted to be self-sufficient, and I wanted life to be like a crazy adventure. And that was definitely like a huge inspiration for my walking. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember I used to read like Comet Bus and the Maximum Rock and Roll and
Yes,
all of
comet
these
bus.
and just seeing that and then being able to realize like, oh, I can go on adventures too. I really admit as an adult, I stopped for a little while doing I feel like as much mentoring. And then it's like, dude, I got to get back to it. And
Yeah.
it definitely if I'm not doing it, I don't feel as alive.
Yes, I feel you. Oh, that's so cool. You mentioned Comet Bus. I read like all of those too. It was
Yes.
really great seeing.
So now I'm into your little books. So I want
Yeah.
to talk to you. You've made a couple books.
Yep.
Um, the first one that I got was it's like a graffiti book in Paris. So
Yes.
you were like a punk kid in the U.S. and then how did you make your way to Paris?
Okay, so Paris was I was married. I'm divorced now, but still on good terms with her. um, but yeah, my ex-wife. So she was really into France and like French language and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and we just came to this point where we wanted to do something really awesome, and um, I wanted some grand adventure, you know, and she wanted to learn French and steep herself in that culture. So we had also visited Paris like a couple summers previous and both really loved it. So we just got to talk and was like, let's fucking move to Paris. And it was a crazy thing because well, it was just I mean, my adventure part of me was like, this is the best idea ever. And it was like so freaky too, you know. But we just freaking did it and we were planning on going there maybe just for like a year, you know, but we ended up staying there for 5 years in Paris and even longer. We actually got separated while we were in Paris, and yeah, it was just the best adventure ever. Like just going to another country with another language and trying to figure out how to live there. And holy shit, I love Paris now. It's like part of
Yeah,
my heart.
so you did a project where you walked all the streets of Paris.
Yep, yep.
How did that come about?
So that came about because when we first moved to Paris, like every single day I was walking like 6 to 8 hours, like for like an entire year straight. And it's weird when you walk, like you end up like finding yourself, or at least me. I always like found myself like going to the same streets. You know, you kind of like get a certain sense of certain neighborhoods, and you're like, oh, that's kind of boring, and this neighborhood's cool. So you're always like going to the cool neighborhoods, never going to the boring neighborhoods. And just after a year, I felt like I'd already explored all of Paris, but like that's ridiculous. Like I knew I hadn't, but I wanted to figure out a way to like force myself to like explore everywhere. And it's kind of like a thing with graffiti too. Like in graffiti, it's kind of like the fifth element of like graffiti, like something like people don't talk about so much, but like graph is like it's all about or a big part of it is like knowing your city, you know. There's like this pride like graffiti writers have of like knowing their city, and like graffiti writers in my opinion like know the city more than anybody else.
Oh,
And
for sure. Maybe bike messengers might
that
rival
too,
them. That's it. Yeah, those
that's
guys can
true.
tell you every good route, every little hiding place, everything.
Exactly,
Every cool
exactly.
little lookout, everything. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes, exactly. Then that was I wanted to like I just love getting as intimate as I can with the city. I love knowing all the little secrets, just every random thing. It's almost like a sort of pride thing too. Like I just love that, and just the yeah. So yeah, I just came up with the idea like I'm gonna just walk every single freaking street, and it was also a way for me to uh, have an adventure while I was working. You know, so like you know, because I could work and then like as soon as I'm off work, I can do that. You know, so it's like a way.
Totally.
It's like a way to have like almost like a you know a long distance walk, but in place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're utilizing what you've got and like really like exploring and seeing the beauty in like what's around you.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I just planned it out, and I got the maps, and then I just came up with the method of like I just took a piece of map. Well, in Paris, like everyone, I don't know if it's still the same like this, but even like the locals will have like these pocketbook maps, you know, with all the streets listed, and so I just got one of those, and I just all right, I'm just gonna draw this line, make sure it covered. You know, it's kind of a weird OCD thing, but I was like, I want to like say that I walked the entire length of every single street in Paris, you know, just having like that grand project of the thing, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
so I just did it. Like I just drew the lines, and then I just followed the lines. And at first I was like, I want to be spontaneous. Like the first couple days, I think I would like take the map to the spot I was going to walk, and then I would draw off just like a few streets, and then I don't know, I like the idea of like spontaneity, you know? And I was like, okay, now I'm going to decide which ones I'm going to do. But that got really tedious. So then eventually I would just take the whole page of the map and just draw out the line, the one line, and then I could just follow the line. It was like blissful. It was just like blissfully fun to just do that.
Yeah, a little meditative. You don't need to think about it too much. You just walk and enjoy what's there.
Exactly. And it's funny because I'm very strange. Like I don't think anyone else would enjoy it because I mean you do have to keep looking at the map and figuring out okay, what's the next step. And
Hmm.
eventually I would like come up with these like little methods like just to remember like okay, like I would call it like a left turnaround. That's like when I had to take a left and then go to the end of that street and then turn around. And I would like just put in my mind like okay, two left turnarounds and then a right straight or whatever, you know. So I could kind of memorize a bit in advance, but yeah, it was kind of funny because I'm like always looking at the map, and that's kind of tedious, but I freaking enjoyed it so much. And
Yeah,
I found so many secrets and just beautiful streets and just so many amazing experiences. It was the best.
as you did it too, I mean, was your view of Paris, did it open up quite a bit? Because I know when I travel, it's like, if you stay in one area, or I think all of life, I think, if you just look at what's right around you, you can have one perspective, but it's only this very, very, very small perspective. But once you start like asking more people, talking to more people, looking more ways, then everything opens up. Is it like you find
Oh
all
my
kinds
God,
of crazy
yes.
spots in Paris you never knew?
Oh my God, yeah, you said it. You said it so well. Like different perspectives. That's like just how it was. Always like increasing my perspectives of the city. And it was so fun because I already had done like a year of walking, and I would just find these like weird connections from one neighborhood to the other. That was like really fun. I would like all of a sudden I would end up in this spot that I already knew, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that that was connected to this other spot, like in this weird way that you know. But it was just pure bliss because it for me like walking is about like discovery, you know. So it was like every day of doing that project was like new discovery, new discovery, new discovery, like one after another. And the my love of graffiti made it even more fun, you know, because I'm like finding, you know, graffiti by people I really like, or like, you know, seeing graph of like writers from like out of like other towns and stuff, which I really love that, like or like you know famous writers from the United States, and yeah,
Totally. So let's talk more about Graph now. Is like your little character.
yeah,
So your little guy that you draw, and he has the little flag. That's kind of your main thing. Tell
yep.
me about how you came up with him, and then I want to talk more about it.
Okay, this is great because I have a lot to say about it. So this is kind of a long story too, but
We've got time.
yes, awesome, me too. So one of my biggest inspirations, this is like going back before the character. One of my biggest inspirations is this guy named Kids. He's a graffiti writer. He wrote Kids. DAC was the crew, 4DC. Um, he really, so he drew a character as well, and it was like it's just like his name. Like he drew these kids, and the kids had this like kind of sad, drunk look to them, and I've spent like a lot of my life lost. And through a lot of my lost times, I always went to kids' graffiti to uh, kind of comfort me. Because he would write these kids, and then a lot of times he would write phrases, you know, like how I do. And he was like a troubled guy, you know, he struggled with addiction and stuff that I've dealt with as well. And so for years and years before I even did graffiti, probably like 10 years, I was just obsessed with this guy's stuff. And like you know, put his art up everywhere, and just always reading about him. And so that kind of like planted a seed, you know, just being into his stuff. But so the walking was my walking for the longest time. it was just it got kind of like nihilistic in a way. Like, and that's a funny thing about walking. Like, it kind of looks, maybe if you look at my stuff and it seems like this really positive, awesome thing, but a lot of it was just being lost. A lot of it was like really negative and like escaping life, you know? Because like when I walk, I can escape everything. Like, I have no worries whatsoever. And I'm kind of prone to escape because like with the addiction in my family and everything, like there's kind of like two ways people will deal with that. Like, one is like people become overly responsible, you know, and they feel like they have to take care of the rest of the family, and that's like a pretty typical thing. But for me, it was like escape, and it was really walking has been really negative actually for me in that respect. But
I can relate to that. I'll interrupt you for a second.
yeah, please.
With my fighting, I think there's a
Yep.
lot of positivity in it. I
Yep.
can focus a lot on that, but I can also see some negativity, the self-imposed kind of the reasons that drive you to fighting, the reasons that
Yeah.
keep you, going through that grind. It's like it's not always positivity that's fueling that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So yeah, I think that's like really cool to hear you talking about that. So yeah,
Yeah.
now go on. That
Y-
I really appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. So um and I also had this like weird I'm prone to romanticism and stuff, and like I don't know, with the walking, I was like, this is my thing. Like, I had this like weird idea of like purity, and like for the longest time I wouldn't even take pictures. I'm like, I don't want to use my walk. This is like this pure thing that I don't ever want to like try to use in any way, cuz I've had experiences like with skateboarding. Like, I wanted to be a pro skater like for like a lot of my life, like until I was like 22 or something. And having that aim, like, it kind of killed my love for it, for skateboarding. And so that's something I've always been scared of. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep my walking pure. I'm not going to do anything with it. But eventually I realized that I was like super nihilistic and like negative. And since I was old, only thing I ever did was walking. Like, I was just so lost in like, uh, I don't know. But eventually I came to this, like, I needed to express myself. Like, I needed to not just walk, because walking is like, it's awesome, but I'm not like creating, you know what I mean? I'm not like doing anything. I'm not, so I started to get this feeling like I wanted to like express myself, give back, to and like inspire people, and like actually like do something with my walking, and like create something awesome, and share what I did, because like you can't, it's so hard to share a walk. Like, you don't want to like bore people like showing them photos and stuff like that. It's like it doesn't really translate, and you can't like tell the stories really. It's hard. So I just started feeling this need to like create. And when I was in Paris, I was walking. I think I was actually doing the walking project, the Paris walking project. But I was randomly walking, and I started taking pictures of some graffiti, and this guy came up to me, and he was like, he just said like, "Je ne parle pas français," like, I don't speak French. I was like, me neither. And we got to talking, and it was a guy from the United States, and he was a graph writer, and I was like, "What do you write?" We're doing that thing, and
Mm-hmm.
he wrote Curve, and he's like a really really awesome. Like, I knew who he was. I had read interviews with him. He's like a well-known graffiti writer, and
Oh, nice.
yeah, and so we became friends. And before, like, I did my character, like, I've always been interested in graffiti, like a fan of graffiti, and like a, you know, not a real graffiti writer, but like, kind of toying around with it and stuff, and tagging little things and everything. So, but like very much a beginner. Um, but I started hanging out with him, and you know, in my like amateurish kind of graffiti back then, like, my kind of goal was like I wanted to be like a do piecing,
Mm-hmm.
and just stuff like that. So, anyways, I would hang out with him, and he was like the coolest freaking guy, because like he's like a legend, but like he's so humble, and like he's like a real artist, and he tries to like help people, and like bring out, see what you have unique to offer, to like with your style and whatever, instead of like, just telling you to do it like a traditional way, and he's very experimental. He's like always experimenting with his graffiti. And so I would write with him, and he would like, I would always like, I wanted to be like him, like I wanted to be like a like just really like, well, he's not like traditional, but like, I don't know. I just wanted to be, I wanted to be like a traditional graffiti writer, and like just and everything. But like every time I wrote with him, he was always pointing out like, do that, like, because I was like trying to get him to teach me like traditional graph and piecing and everything. And every time I was
Mm-hmm.
with him, he was just encouraging me to like find my own way. And it really stuck in my head. He just did that over and over and over. So, and I was writing like a different word back then, and it was really like his uh his encouragement, and like the fact that he was being so cool with me, like it really, it just got me into graffiti more. And from his encouragement to like follow my own path, that's when the character started developing, and I kind of switched from like trying to be like a traditional writer to like finding my own like little unique thing. And so at that point, like I started to change my word, and I was like, I want to like say something that's me, because my other word didn't have anything to do with me. It was just based on the letters. And so I'm like, well, I'm a walker. Like that's what I do all day, every day. So I started looking, you know, doing research, like walker. Like at first I wanted to write walker, but like, I did my research and I found another guy that wrote walker. So I didn't want to write something somebody else wrote. So I was just like looking at synonyms and stuff, and for walking, and I found the word marcher, and it was like the most perfect word I could ever find. Like it really felt like destiny, because there's many definitions of the word, and it was just absolutely perfect. So like a march is like a long and exhausting walk, which is what I do. Um, but also like march is a piece of land that's like in between two countries that's not owned by either country. So it's like kind of like this no man's land, and that's often where I'm exploring and kind of where I exist, like both physically, like with my walking, but also um, mentally, because, well, this is a whole nother thing to talk about, but my life has like been a series of like one loss of faith after another. Like I've never been able to have an identity or like have a belief system, because I always find a fault in whatever belief system I'm in. Like I used to be like religious, even like I've gone through like all these different religious phases. And so yeah, so that word marcher, like existing like in the margins, like an in between sort of place, that's where I've always found myself. I never just existed in one, place, physically and mentally. So it was just the most perfect word. And I liked it better than walker, because I felt like my walking was more intense than just walking. Like I like the kind of the strength of the word marcher, because I feel like I'm doing something kind of more hardcore than just normal walking. And then errant is a real. It was so I actually found this. There's this Henry David Thoreau quote, and he talks about the walker errant. So that's also where I got the word. So he talks about the walker errant as opposed to the knight errant, and like, like a knight errant, they go on quests, but they ride a horse. But the
Mm-hmm.
a walker errant, it goes on quests, but like by walking. Um, so, but I didn't want to use his exact phrase, because he said that walker errant, and um, so I had Marcher. I changed that name, and then also the errant part. The reason I used the A, I found this variation of the word errant, um, which also means the same thing as errant with the E, but it also has this added meaning. So yeah, the errant is like wandering, and it's all about the quest, which is how I kind of see my walks. And then errant with an A has this added meaning of it means like through and through, like complete. So um, yeah, it comes from like, they used to be like, it's like an old word, but it used to be like there used to be like thieves, like if you've heard the expression like errant thief. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the reason that came from that was like when people would say like, "Oh, you're a thief." Like an errant thief was like a professional thief. Like that's how the kind of people that were like fully given to thieving, they would travel and do it, to like escape getting caught and everything. So they would say like, "Oh, you're an errant thief. You're like one of those professional thieves." It was like an exaggeration of the word. Um, and so it's like Marcher Arrant. It's like Marcher, like a complete walker, like the epitome of a walker, like a through and through walker. So
Well, I think you found the perfect name.
it did. I fucking love it. It like fits me like it's not forced. Like every single variation of the two words is like absolutely me. So it felt like destiny when I found it. I was like in love from the beginning.
Yeah, it's all like the whole story so far, sounds pretty amazing in that you met the guy who kind of became your mentor and he
Yeah,
pushed you into a direction to really find yourself.
exactly.
And then you came up with kind of this amazing little dude that carries flags and
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
one of my favorite parts that really when I started seeing your stuff, it's like hit the little quotes or the little like things in the flags, the sayings in the flags.
yes.
Dude, they're amazing. You
Thank you. That's like
know,
my favorite part. That's my favorite part of it.
yeah, always check out what's he got to say today. What's this, and it's like it's super inspiring.
Oh,
It's
thanks.
pretty. I like that it's honest.
Yep.
It's a little like a little self-deprecating,
Yeah,
but
for
it's
sure.
it's very inspiring. It's honest. That's what I like the most, and it's just like you just keep going. There's always a new one, and
Yep.
yeah, so I love hearing the story behind it.
That's what I'm going for. Thank you. And the the reason for focusing on the because well, first of all, the character. I just knew I wanted to have a character, like a walking character, because I was into that guy Kids who did a character.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but then like my favorite part of like Kids' graffiti was always the little autobiographical things he would say. And later, after I was into him, I found out about the monikers. And my
Mm-hmm.
favorite thing about monikers was always the thing that they wrote. Um,
The
and so
saying on the side of the
yes,
picture. Yeah.
exactly. Like going north to meet my honey or whatever. I was like, that's cool. Like, and I picture these people on these adventures and whatever, just wandering and just hearing
Yeah,
about
little snapshot.
exactly. So, and then in terms of like self-expression, like because like all I do is walk, pretty much all my free time is just spent walking. I can't get good at anything. Like I just wrote this. One of my phrases was like, one of my recent ones was like I walk like Marcher Arrant walks too much to get good at anything. It's like if you're always on the road or always walking, it's like you can't be practicing like any kind of skill. So it the the art of it was like really in the writing, because that's something I actually could do while I was walking because I could walk and then think of these phrases while I was walking. It was one of the only things, that I could do while I was walking in terms of like self-expression. So it's just absolutely perfect. And I always wanted to like write a book about my adventures. And every time I would sit down, I was like, I can't sit down. Like it just like I'm so used to walking that it drives me crazy, like sitting still. And I was like, damn, I don't have enough discipline to be a writer, and stuff like that. But then eventually, like finding this art that I've created, it's like the perfect thing. I actually can. And like Nietzsche is one of my biggest inspirations, like the philosopher writer, and
Mm-hmm.
he wrote in like they call it like aphorisms and stuff, and like some of the like these short phrases, a lot of times. And I've read theories about why he wrote like that, and one of them is like that because he was always walking as well. And so it's like, you write them down as you're walking, and it's just perfect. I freaking love it. And then like like I can write stuff that's happening, or whatever. So it's so me. It's like absolutely me, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, well, it comes across as a fan, or as someone just seeing it. It
Yeah,
comes across great, the presentation of it, and just like Man, it's like your little mini adventures or my little mini adventures. Like, where's he going? What's he writing?
That's awesome.
Then I discovered you on YouTube, just like last week or
Oh, no
something.
way.
And I
Yeah,
was
yep.
like, oh, just like I love stuff like that. Walking around,
Yeah.
just like hearing you talk about stuff, you
Yeah,
know?
that's been
It,
fun. I wanna put more into that. It's a whole 'nother realm to dive into.
so how have you found you've mentioned earlier, kind of having that apprehension about, I guess, maybe like making things, I don't know, commodifying what the word would be for
Yeah,
your walking. I think I've had that feeling in different aspects of my life. I think coming out also from that punk rock thing, it's like, uh, the DIY is a great philosophy, but sometimes also like lends to like, I don't know how to say it, an attitude where you don't really feel confident pushing
yeah.
things forward.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
You
Yep.
know, I felt that way in my like jujitsu career. Like, oh, I don't want to like cheapen this by like taking money, or like
Yes.
I was not a very good business owner for that reason, and then like having the confidence and having these weird like moral hangups and
Yep.
yeah, I think it was a lot of insecurities,
That's
really.
what I found too. Yep, exactly.
I can like say it was like, the notion of this or that, but when I really look at the root cause of it, I like to do a lot of walking. I like to do a lot of like mundane, repetitive things because
Uh-huh.
it gives me time to think
Yes.
and, self reflect. And it's like, okay, the root cause of a lot of it is like a lack of confidence
Yeah,
or like, and then just trying to identify those like limiting things and like, okay, there's a medium point for these. I can do jujitsu and I can kind of make a living,
yep,
but it can still be pure. I can still be engaged in like a good way, you know.
yep,
And
exactly.
how have you found that balance in your walking, in your graffiti? I know you have stuff for sale.
Yep,
I think it's awesome.
yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I resonate so much with what you were saying, like, because I think, like, my how I didn't wanna, like, commodify or even, like, take pictures at first, like, a lot of that stuff it was, like, insecurity, like, in terms of, like, making art and stuff, like, I just didn't wanna, like, put stuff out there to be judged, and feel bad if people didn't like it or no one cared, you know what I mean? But what ended up happening was like I realized that like my entire like I'm super into reading and just consuming things that are like inspiring to me. Like that's I've spent most of my life like lost in books and just like it's like food for me, like reading an adventure book or like looking at people's graffiti, and eventually I was like, I just felt the need to. I wanted to be like another like link in the chain of like inspiration because like here I am always consuming, but like I want to give back, and like I felt like I had something special that could like inspire people and motivate people. So I'm like, I just like got over like all the things that were holding me back with that, and just like I just kind of saw it as like I got to be courageous and like make stuff, and like just be another chain in that like link of inspiration. And um, so yeah, and then like with the selling stuff, like I don't have any problem with it. It's a funny subject in the graph world and in the moniker world because there's a lot of ethics about people get mad about selling stuff because they want to keep it pure and everything, but
Yeah.
um, I don't have any problem with it. Like all my heroes like sold stuff, whether it's like art or like books. It's to me it's just an exchange of like I give you this and you give me that. Like it's a reciprocal thing that's like really beautiful. Um so that's just kind of how I see it, and it feels good. I like making stuff and selling it, and um you know eventually, and like this is another reason, like well I was telling you before we started, like how you really inspire me a lot. And beyond like the jujitsu and the MMA, like the fact that you like started your own gym and everything, like it really inspires me. And um, you know how like there's kind of this like idea of like do what you love, like to get to live, like that's the greatest goal ever to like your job is like what you love, and
Mm-hmm.
but like what I love is walking. There's no job for walking, so like my greatest dream ever is to just walk and make art and like have that be a uh like a process that feeds itself, you know what I mean? So yeah, I just really enjoy it because people get inspiration. Like when people can buy art, they like I know like I've bought art and it just having that piece of art, it just inspires me. It's like this little treasure, and it just gives me so much inspiration. And like I really believe that art, well, I don't want to be too over the top, but like I don't know, for me personally, I can say this for sure, like art has been as important to me as food, water, like, and that's no joke. And like that's been really proven. Like when people like lose meaning and inspiration, like they go into like self-destructive things, or you could be so you could commit suicide, if you're like so bummed out. And like that's what like art and music, that's what it does. It like feeds your soul and it like motivates you. Like I was telling you about kids, like his art, I've been like a fan of his stuff for like 15 years, and like at my lowest points, like I can always like look at his stuff and it just helps me keep going. Like it's so freaking powerful. So I want to like provide that for other people too, and like I feel like I have something unique, and to like motivate people. And like the selling, I don't have any problem with it whatsoever. I feel like it's just like an exchange, like, oh, you motivate me, here's this, and it's just this nice, it all feeds each other,
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, art is just another vehicle to like connect people, and
Exactly.
build community. And so
Yes.
it's like people, well, that brings us to today. Everyone's so isolated with all the coronavirus,
Yep.
right? And you kind of see like, man, we need more than ever people creating art, people reaching out, people doing things and staying connected. And it's, you've definitely inspired me with your art.
I'm so
And
happy.
I feel super lucky that I just kind of randomly ran across it. I
Yeah.
know, I think when I like ordered like the first little moniker thing you did, your little map, and it
Yeah.
came right when like at a really hard spot. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, oh, just I remember just being so stoked. I was like, oh, my whole life sucks right now, but I got this little thing. And
Yeah.
it just like, kind of propels you through. Like it's one little bright spot. And then you just kind of keep moving forward. I'd feel bad, have a hard day, see your little guy, see the messages, kind of know, yeah, there's other people out there,
Yes.
and so
I
it's like
love that.
I also like, it's I think as a consumer of your art, it's like it feels good to be able to give back to propel your journey forward.
Yeah.
I've had many people do that for me in my
Yep.
journey. And so yeah, I am a big fan of like being able to support people. I love like how the internet's really opened up, like you can find people doing projects and
Yep.
see them and then support them in any way,
Yeah.
reaching out to them, buying their stuff, donating to them, whatever it looks like. There's so many different channels to help people who are doing things that are a little different from the typical job.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. Exactly. Yeah. I want I also I teach English online,
Mm-hmm.
and my so my biggest dream is to, with making art and like making and with teaching English, to where I can just like always be walking and just never have to stop, and the two together, I think it's working pretty good. And like I'm trying to build, it's like an online English teaching business I'm trying to start,
Yeah,
and
for sure. I've looked into this. I think I've actually talked to you about it
oh yeah, did we talk
before.
about it?
I
Yeah.
think we talked about it, and I have a few other friends that do it. Dude, I
Yep.
was just thinking the other day, I think I need to relook at being an English teacher with everything shut down. Um,
Dude, you should. It's really good gig.
yeah, it's like I think that's such an well, it's another way that technology's been like really helpful in like providing opportunity for people to pursue other passions. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Oh
it
yeah.
seems like a really cool job. I love little kids. I love teaching kids. I love teaching. And so it's
Yeah.
like you can kind of do that anywhere. I kind of wanted to one day move to Nicaragua and I'm like, dude, I could teach online.
Oh shit. Exactly.
So yeah, there's like, man, how have you, let's talk about that for a minute because I kind of want to learn about it. Tell me about it.
The English
How,
teaching? Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I got involved in English teaching because, well, before I moved to Paris, I was already teaching at a preschool. Or I was like
Mm-hmm.
a teacher's assistant, you know. I mean, teaching is like a big word. I mean, you're teaching them the basic stuff of life, like how to like
Yeah.
communicate and stuff. But I loved it. Like teaching, working with kids was the first job I ever had where I didn't dread going to work, which I thought I would always dread going into work, like no matter what. But but yeah, I would like. It's not that I'm not trying to romanticize. It's not like I would do it if I didn't have to. But I freaking yeah,
I teach little kids, so I totally am like, yeah, I get it. It's like
yeah,
it's good, but it's a job, but it's like, yeah, it's all those things.
exactly. I know. I always love seeing your photos of like. It seems like you focus a lot on working with kids. Like I always see photos of you teaching kids and stuff. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, yeah. So fuck. What was I saying? Kind of lost my train.
You're
Uh,
telling me about the English online. I
Oh
interrupted you.
yeah, 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 yeah. So I was working with kids before I moved to Paris, and then when I moved to Paris, like um, that's my only kind of profession is like working with kids. So I, you know, I first got a job with this company called Baby Long, and I was teaching kids English and like going to people's houses, but it was like through this company,
Hmm.
and I really loved that. And then I can't remember why, but I stopped working there, and then I was just like going through trying to find another job, and I found nannying jobs. I was like, okay, this is another like outlet, you know, that has to do with my skills and whatever. And I ended up finding this like beautiful, beautiful family who that was my main job. Like the whole time I was in Paris was like working with this family, and I absolutely fell in love with it and with the family because it didn't even feel like a job. It was just I became really close with them. I spent Christmases and just all the time. Like we became really close, and I loved that. And that wasn't really English teaching because the kid was, uh, I think she was like I don't know 9 months old when I started with her. But
Okay, so just
e-
taking care of her, helping out.
exactly, I was just a nanny, and so I did that for 5 years, and then I moved to Barcelona, and I was trying to find nanny jobs and stuff, but I was like, okay, let me look into this English teaching thing. That'll just give me another, thing. And I ended up getting like the TEFL certificate, and and then I got a bunch of jobs. Now these jobs were not nannying. Well, it was a combination, like some of the jobs I had there were I would teach English for like an hour, and then like the rest of the time I'd be like nannying them basically. Um, but yeah, that's how I got involved with it, and then with English teaching. And then when I came back to the States, I was like, okay, I only have two professions, like kind of working with kids and then like teaching English. And I really love the English teaching. And like when I came back to the States, this is just like a temporary thing. Like I'm gonna go back to Europe eventually, and I wanted to like keep up with my skills of English teaching. But I was like, fuck, like I don't the TEFL certificate and whatever, it's not enough to like I couldn't teach in a high school, you know what I mean? It's so I was like, fuck, I'm out of work, like and I want to like keep my skills sharp and everything. And I applied at some preschools here, but I didn't get hired, and I think I don't know. It's like maybe I don't know. I have like really good credentials. I've been working with kids for like 15 years, but I think the area that I'm in, it's like they're kind of backwards thinking about guys, and that's kind of like the plague of my existence is like working with kids but being a guy. It's like this
Yeah.
it's kind of sexism towards guys, and so for some reason I didn't get hired by any of these preschools. So then I had heard about the online teaching English thing, but I was like, that just sounds too good to be true. I just thought it was like a scam or something, but I finally looked into it, and then yeah, freaking applied, got the job, and I freaking love it. And now it's become like, okay, this is how I can constantly be traveling and always have work. Like, and like I'm teaching Chinese kids English, and it's through this company, and it's like my favorite job I ever had because work from home and everything, and or from wherever, I can be anywhere I want, and teach, which is like my dream. And then I just like the whole format. Like I don't have to create the lesson plans and stuff. Like the company provides the slides and the whole curriculum, and I'm just like guiding the kids through the slides and extending upon the slides and making corrections and whatnot. And it's just fun. Like every day, like and I have like ongoing like kids that I've had for like a while, and I just like really happy to see them um, every day. And like a lot of like I think it's like an insecurity thing, but like somehow it sounds weird, but like somehow I feel like I can be myself more around kids, and I like to get like goofy and silly, and it's just I enjoy it so much. It almost doesn't feel like a job,
Totally.
So
Well, I find the same thing. I like teaching. I teach adults and kids, but I think like the kids are like fun. It's a little different. It's like you can kind of have fun with it. I remember
yeah,
like, as a kid, you just like wanted people to be nice, have fun, not too much like crazy pressure. That's what I kind of try and do. Uh,
yeah.
and yeah, that's really cool. And I think it's yeah, definitely like a neat opportunity to be able to teach online so that I think it frees people up to be able to do all kinds of other stuff, which I think is rad.
Yeah, exactly. And then beyond like the online, just teaching English in general, it's like the sweetest job. It doesn't pay well, but I'm used to being poor. Um, but it makes me so happy to know that like right now I could move anywhere, like any country, and like I have a job, It's since I love traveling and living in other countries, it's just like the perfect thing for me.
Yeah. So where else have you traveled? What are some other places you enjoyed?
Well, I after I left Paris, then I moved to Barcelona for 5 years, and I freaking love that place too. It's like people ask me like, "What do you like more?" I couldn't say like really. I kind of want to move back to Paris eventually, but they're just both so different. But I actually haven't traveled a lot in a in a way. Like I've traveled all around Europe, but yeah, I kind of said that I love traveling, but I love being abroad. But I don't. I'm not like somebody that wants to go everywhere necessarily. I mean, I kind of do. That's freaking fun, but like I kind of like having a region, and my kind of region is like France and Spain and Italy. These are like where my heart is, and what I eventually want to do is just like move there and just stay there and just like continue exploring those places because I really, there's kind of like these idea of like the nomad or whatever, and that's not me. Like I like going deep in like a few places, Um, that it's just like kind of that thing of like the intimacy of like getting to know a place. Like I like to go deep and like know a place as much as I can. So, um, but yeah, I've traveled just all through. I've traveled all through France and Spain, like a lot. And then besides that, I
Well, I
went on
guess
a
we can talk to you about your second book,
yeah,
where you wrote the book about walking from Paris to Spain.
yes,
So,
I love that.
I consider that travel. I consider, I guess
Yes,
it's a different and weird word, I guess. Like some people
yes,
think like, travel can be many things. And I like the way you talked about it of like going deep for the
yes.
travel. So talk to me about your Paris to Spain trip.
I like what you said there about travel because I mentioned it. I think it was yeah, it was that book where I talked about like Thoreauvian style traveling. Like Thoreau has this quote where he says like he was from Concord, Massachusetts, and he had this quote where I'm paraphrasing, but it was like I've traveled a lot in Concord, and I love that idea of like traveling in place. That's like I do long distance walking, but like kind of the heart of it is, since I was a kid, is like traveling a lot in one place. I love that.
Well, I
Um,
think the notion of traveling by foot is totally different than traveling by plane. Do you know what I mean? I like riding bicycles a lot. And
Yeah,
it's like you're really experiencing the environment more than if you're traveling by maybe more conventional means, stuck in a
totally.
little like metal container, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
And walking is more intimate than riding a bicycle.
Yeah, totally. I agree so much. Yeah, that's why I love it. Because you just slow down and like the difference to me is like there's like the cliches, the journey is the destination kind of stuff, but like when I'm traveling or when I'm walking, I walk to like extend time, you know? Like I don't want to make things quicker cuz like I don't know, it's something about walking like I can like wake up, and this is something I've done since I was a kid. Like in middle school, I would even do this. I would wake up at sunrise, and then I would go walking all day until nighttime. And I really feel like it's something about walking where it you look back at your day after you've done that, or if you're doing like a long distance walk, and it just seems like an entire odyssey. It seems like a lifetime. Somehow I feel like walking does that. Um, Whereas like faster modes, you don't have that as much. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
that's a good way to think about it. Like because it's like the time gets extended, so it's like a lot more seems to happen because it's in slow motion.
exactly. Yes, exactly. Well said. Um, so with the Paris to Spain walk, so that was a beloved walk of mine because it was the first long distance walk I had done. So like I had explored all of Paris. I had done like the map walking and just like totally exhausted Paris, and I was like, I need a new adventure, and I don't I think I said it in the book. I think the first idea I got from it was I was on this Rue Saint Jacques and in Paris, and someone had mentioned like while I was with them like, oh, this is Rue Saint Jacques, like it's like for Saint Jacques de Compostelle, like this is like the ancient pilgrimage path. This street, this path right here, not the street now as we know it, but like at one point it was part of a trail that went all the way to the west of Spain. And that just like wow, that the idea of like being on that street right there and the idea that I could walk to like Spain, it just started infecting my mind. Like it was like the coolest thing ever. And um yeah, I just kept thinking it over and I was like, man, I've never done like a long distance walk. Like the most I had walked was like probably a couple days at that point, like in terms of like going extending in one direction.
Hmm.
Um so it just dude, it was just like it just kept snowballing the idea of it. And then I went to this like camping store. Just I like, oh, I wonder if there's like a book about it. And I found a book all about it. And um, I was like, holy shit, here I got the guidebook. It tells like how to follow the path, it tells the towns, like, it's all there. So I freaking just went for it. And it's one of my happiest walks because it was like, I never grew up camping or anything like that. I had slept outside just that was kind of like a lot of my walking. Like a lot of times I would just walk around the city and just sleep wherever. It was like some weird adventure thing to me. So I was kind of used to sleeping outside, like in cities and whatnot. Uh, but I was never into camping, and so it was just something super foreign to me. And the fact that like I did it was it took a lot of like bravery, like for me, because I'm like pretty I don't know, scared in a lot of ways of stuff. And so yeah, I just got the thought, and then I planned it. I bought all my like supplies, and I just went for it. And it was one of the happiest moments of my life when I set off for that walk. I like left, like when I like stepped out of my apartment, I just got like the biggest freaking smile on my face. I'm like, from right here, I'm gonna walk all the way to Spain. Like it was just blew my mind. And like the idea of like extending time, it's like for an entire month, I don't have to be worried about any of the stresses of life. Like nothing, just freedom, discovery, new things constantly. It was like the best. So Yeah, that's
Dude,
kind
it's
of.
impressive to me. I think about it. Well, I'll say I'm looking at your book. I brought the book so I could kind of like think about it while
Oh,
we talked
cool.
about it. Man, I'll
Yeah.
say one of my favorite parts is like where you drew the little stamps, right? You drew your
Yes.
own little stamps. I was like, dude,
Yes.
that's sweet. Like, so you get the little stamps if you go to a certain place, but you kind of made your own, which I thought was
Ex
like really rad.
yes, I that's one of my favorite freaking artifacts from that walk, and, like, yeah, like I mentioned in the book, like, it was, like, I don't know, maybe 3 days into the walk, I met this German guy. So, for the walk, I was like I was just planning on sleeping outside. That was kinda like, for money issues and just and for
DIY way to do it. I want to talk about
eggs.
that too, but
Yes.
tell me your story, and then I want to get back to the like full rogue
Yes.
method.
Yes, exactly, like, it's just freedom because, like, if you have to, like, planning on staying, it's kinda like that thing of, like, not thinking. Like, it sounds bad, but, like, I don't like to think. I don't know. But, it's like if you're the planning, like, I walk to be free and to just have no thoughts, but if you're, like, starting to plan stuff, it's like, "Oh, no, now time is an issue." But I don't want time. I want time to be gone, you know? Um, so if you're like, "Oh, no, like, I gotta be at this hostel or whatever at this time because 'cause they're gonna close," like, I don't like that. So I was planning on sleeping outside, the entire time, but I met this German guy, and, we walked together for a couple days, and he wanted to stay at a hostel, or like, so like on like the Chemin de Saint Jacques, they call it in French, or the Camino de Santiago in Spanish. Um, you have that document. It's called the Pilgrims Passport, and if you have that, it's a free thing you can get. And if you have that, then you can stay at all these places that are made for pilgrims. Well, because the whole walk is like traditionally like it's a religious walk, and it ends at this like religious site, in Spain. So you get this passport thing, and it shows that you're like a walker, doing this route, and so you can stay at all these places for really cheap, because they're like sympathetic towards you being a pilgrim and whatnot. But anyways, at this, so with the German guy, then I ended up, he wanted to stay somewhere, and we had become like walking partners at that point. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll stay with you, at this place. And that's when I met this French guy who was amazing, and he had done the Camino. He had walked all the way to Spain and then back, and he's the one that told me, like, because he spent a lot of time just sleeping outside too. And he was like, well, what you do is like you just write, like, draw your own, when you sleep outside, because traditionally you get the stamps from staying at the hostels, and they give you a little stamp. But I wasn't planning on staying at any of them, so that guy's idea was the best. And so I'm like, okay, cool. If I sleep on a bench, I'm gonna draw a little picture of the bench, and write the town that I'm in. And yeah, it became one of my favorite kind of artifacts from the walk.
So how was the thought for me, I really want to do like a long distance bike ride and do it fully like
Oh, fuck yeah.
self-contained, not like just bring a tent, paddle when you want to go to sleep, put up the tent or whatever, and
Hell
just go to
yeah.
sleep. But then I start to think like, dude, is that safe? I start to go in those places in my mind,
Yeah.
but it's like, the vulnerability of it.
Oh my God, it's
But
intense. Yeah.
dude, how long did it take you to get over it? Did you get over it?
I'm always a bit uneasy, like when I go to sleep, when I find a
Mm-hmm.
spot, because I'll sleep anywhere. Like, I sleep in cities, in the bush, in the middle of the city, wherever, and a lot of it's like, well, it's not like I've always been, like, drinking has been a large part of my walking. It's not now. I've uh, beat that that addiction. But when you're drinking and stuff, you just kind of, it's like liquid courage or whatever, and you don't
Yep.
care. But so a lot.
I remember, as a kid, I've slept in a couple bushes. Well,
Yeah.
more than a number of bushes were like behind something.
Yep.
I think like, yeah, it's that function of getting a little older. Like,
Yeah.
dude, but I'm like, dude, I still want to go on those adventures, and I know people that do, and I know it's
Yep.
possible.
Yep.
It's just kind of overcoming that, or like doing it. in the smartest way possible, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's what I was gonna say. So I kind of pride myself on picking good spots. It's all about spots, you know. And yeah, it's so weird. Like sometimes I don't know, maybe I'm just lucky, but I've never had any problems with my sleeping spots. And I feel like yeah, maybe a large part of that's luck, but also there's certain things I look for, you know, in a good spot. And it's not always like being hidden. Like sometimes I'll sleep in the middle of a square and I feel comfortable because there's a lot of people. You know, maybe there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of tourists or whatever. I'm like, cool, like no one can fuck with me because there's other people around, you know.
Totally.
Um, Often you know, it's like in the train riding community, they talk about like home bums. You know, it's like a disparaging term, but like I'm always aware of like the home bums and like um I don't want to be like messed with by anybody, you know, and like maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's like the home bums, quote unquote, like maybe they're like alcoholics or whatever, and like I want to avoid any spots where they are. So like it's important for me to make sure that I'm not in a really obvious kind of typical sleep spot. So I like try to find like just out of the way, but I like to be actually near cities. I feel safe, you know, and plus like, you can like resupply when you wake up or have a coffee or whatever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I try to find. It's hard to say what I look for, but I just try to find kind of use my intuition, and then like uh, I also when I go to sleep, I like make sure like maybe I'll have like mace or something or like a weapon like right next to me, you know, because like you said,
Mm-hmm.
it is very vulnerable. It's crazy. It's like mind blowing. Like sleeping outside because it's like the most vulnerable thing you could ever do like in a lot of ways. um so like I'll have like maybe a weapon next to me, which is funny, but
Yeah.
um
Well, I mean,
and
there's the realistic
you know
side of
I like
it.
to this might not be a good idea, you'd probably know from martial arts, but you know, a lot of times I like to be in a spot where there's like nothing can come from behind me. So like against a wall, you know, or like even
Totally.
a corner, you know, I like corners and
Like a
because
little cave. Like you're like,
yes,
okay, you only come in that direction. I only need to worry about that direction.
exactly. And I'm facing that direction so I can see whatever comes. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's not the best idea because then you're kind of trapped in that corner, but that's kind of my rationale. But, and then like, it's funny with, and I'm really scared. So it's like, you know, you might think like seeing my walking, like, oh, I'm like brave or something, or like not scared, but I'm like every night I'm like pretty scared when I go to sleep, and just a little. It's definitely like gotten better over time, and I've gotten pretty relatively comfortable, but yeah, I'm always like worried about people, and then like also animals. I've had like
Dude, I
a
get you because
lot of.
I'm afraid of like wildlife,
Me
you
too.
know?
Thank you. I hate like I've talked to so many hippies and they're like, "Oh, it's all good, man." I'm like, "Dude, I'm scared of animals, man."
Dude,
Like,
I'm afraid of like having like some kind of little animal like curl up next to me while I'm sleeping. I had a buddy when I was in college, like when I lived in Olympia, and he was sleeping like in a base, not really a base, a punk house. A punk
yeah,
house that was like, I wouldn't call it a basement. It was like sort of outside play, sort of a basement. And
yep.
it was like some winter time, and he was sleeping, and a possum curled up in his bed with him.
No way. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Did
Uh,
it did it
no,
bother him?
no,
Or
it's just like trying to get warm or something.
no way. That's so cute.
Dude, and I'm afraid of rats. Um,
Totally, me too.
dude, I like,
That's
I,
another thing I
I,
look out for.
I
It's like
appreciate them in nature, but dude, I'm afraid of them. I don't want them on me.
I know, I'm exactly the same. And bugs too. That's another thing I always look for like in a good sleep spot, you know?
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, one of my favorite. It's weird. Like I want to get like a tattoo of it. Like the one of the most comforting sleep spots like ever find is like on a picnic table. It's very strange, but I feel so safe on a picnic table. Like I know like animals can't get me, and there's no bugs on it. So it's like it's
Little
weird.
bunk
It's like
bed.
yeah, and it's like it's this weird like simple pleasures. You know, I'm like I feel safe on a picnic table. It's weird, but
So
yeah.
let's move to it. So I know you've been doing a little new form of travel now. You've been hopping the trains a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
So that's a whole cool little culture. I was exposed to it a little bit when I was younger.
yeah.
Didn't do much of it, but had a lot of friends that traveled quite extensively that way. I wish I would have kind of delved into it more. Man, it's really cool. How has that been for you?
Wow. Well, it's funny because like I don't really hop. Like I've only hopped a few trains,
Uh
but
huh.
my it's I'm a walker, but my like one of my biggest inspirations is freight hoppers. Because of
Totally.
the I don't know what's the word, not philosophy, but like I don't know, the aesthetic and like
It's
the
freedom, I think. I think
yes,
I have the same, like
yes,
that romantic notion of like it's
yes,
like the full American notion of freedom and like I'm just gonna say fuck it and go do this thing. You know?
exactly. And there like I can't really find it too much inspiration from walkers because like I don't relate with most walking culture or whatever. But like since I'm like from the punk scene, like that's the freight hopping thing is related to that and everything, and just like the
Accessible
ethos.
adventuring. Yeah, it was the
Yeah,
accessible way to travel, to get places. And
yeah,
then yeah, just the like you said, the aesthetic of it. I
yeah, and
remember
like
that was one thing with like was it Comet Bus or where you started hearing about like Colossus of the Road and all of those like monikers.
yes,
That's where I first started seeing it and
yeah,
yeah, it
I love
that's
it.
a whole culture. I love those almost more than I love graffiti. It's just like
Oh, me too. Oh my God, me too. Well, yeah, I get like a lot of my inspiration from freight hoppers, and I've done it a few times because like it's always been this romantic thing to me, and it's cool. Like I always thought, oh, they're so similar, like walking and freight hopping, and they are in a lot of ways, but they're really different in a lot of ways too. So it's been interesting to experience that because it's always been this romantic thing, but like when you get down to it, it's not romantic. Like it's hard. I mean, it is romantic, don't get me wrong. It's like the awesomest thing ever, like freight hopping. But it's hard, and there's like as I've started learning about it, it's crazy how deep it is. Like I just thought it was kind of people just randomly jumped on things, but there's so much knowledge to be had, and like there's people that just know so much about how the trains work and everything, and there's yeah, so it's a learning process for me, and luckily I have some friends that do it, and they've taught me some things, but I want to do it more. I've only probably hopped like 4 trains really, um, but I've tried and failed at more than that because the hard thing about it is, for me, is like I like constant motion, and freight hopping is a lot of waiting, and it's a lot of waiting, and you don't know when you're gonna leave, so it can like it's so mental. Like I think that's one of the main differences. Like walking's physical, freight riding's mental. Like I'm just
yeah, there's not a level of control over freight riding. It doesn't seem like you're
yes,
at the mercy of the many things. And
exactly.
walking is just like, well, it's going to take forever, but I am fully in control.
Oh my God, you said it exactly right. That's like one of the main differences is like, and I always say this, like it feels like you'd think like with walking, it seems like walking would take more patience, but actually freight hopping, because walking you're going to get there a million times slower than, by freight. But there's like this mental thing with walking where, like you said, it's like you're always making progress, like constantly, even if it's little progress. But like freight hopping, it's like you're spending time waiting and you don't know, when you're going to leave, so it's like these long periods of time where you're not making progress on your travel,
A
and
big lesson in patience versus
oh my
like
God,
stick to itiveness or whatever.
seriously, I think like freight hoppers, I'm just so inspired and just like blown away by them because it it's super hard. It takes an incredible amount of patience and like mental strength, I think, to do it, because like one of the last times I tried to ride but failed, I was trying to go from Montana to California, and I mean a lot of this was my ignorance. Like I know if somebody that knew what they were doing, they would have gotten out, no doubt. Like a lot faster. But I spent like a week in this yard. Like I spent 12-hour days like sitting on trains. Like, is it gonna leave? And it was just driving me mad. Like, so it takes a lot of like knowledge, and it takes a lot of like mental strength and patience, and it's just like pretty amazing. I'm really blown away by, yeah, people that ride freight. But I want to do it more, and I want to do it more with like some of my friends that know, you know, what they're doing, because I really want to do it in a smart way, I'm all about like trying to do things right, and there's a lot of like etiquette and a lot of, yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it in a smart way.
Yeah, it's its own culture and scene, and there, yeah, like you said, the smart ways to do it and the, I guess, polite ways or the best practices.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, well, just like anything, there's techniques to it,
Techniques, exactly.
and
Yeah.
the longer you do it, the more you put in your dues, the deeper knowledge will you get, and kind of, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yep.
I know you have another project that you maybe are going to work on. I know, well, kind of following you, you wanted to do Pacific Crest Trail and all of those, the Triple Crown.
Yes.
And
Yep.
now you've kind of shifted focus to
Yes.
kind of what I think is a cooler project, especially like when it's you doing it. I think it's
Yep.
more fitting. Tell me a little bit about that so everyone can hear about that.
Yes, thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, when one of the main reasons I came back to the United States was to do the Triple Crown, because I wanted to like grow as a walker and do things. A lot of my walking isn't nature walking or like that, and so I'm like, man, I want to do and these are like famous, just iconic walks, and I was like, man, I want to do that, and yeah, I was like gung ho about it for the longest time, and then I just started realizing that it wasn't actually me so much. Like it came from this abstract thing that I wanted to do these things. It wasn't like it was just like, whoa, here's these big walks. I want to do those big walks because they're cool. But then like the more I was preparing and thinking about them and like feeling like resistance and stuff, I'm like, this isn't actually me. Um, so because I like graffiti and all that, and like I love nature, don't get me wrong, but like I'm not super nature person. Like and those walks are all about nature. So
Yeah, they're deep
um,
in their own way. It's like full nature. I have a couple friends that are looking to do that, and it's like that's its own kind of adventure.
totally. I still think about it too. I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up doing it like at least one of those walks. I think the Appalachian Trail that kind of speaks to me the most. But while I was like working and like trying to save for those walks, I was, because I'm always doing a walk. If I'm in place, I'm still, like the Paris walk or the Barcelona walk. I'm always doing some kind of project, walking project. And so while I was working and like saving for those walks, I started this project of walking all the train tracks in the area that I'm in. And I can't tell you like how blissful this project was. Like, I, it was just the most fun, and I'm still doing it, but I was just having the most fun time like ever, because like I love tracks, and then like I grew up right next to the train tracks. I could hear the trains like from my house and everything, and grow up like being a teenager, smoking weed and drinking under the tracks and all that stuff. But anyways, so I started doing that walk, and then it's so great because of the graffiti too. There's always like a tunnel or like a bridge, to do graffiti under. Um, and I was just having so much fun. I was like, it just, I got the idea. I don't remember when or how, but I was like, dude, what if I walked across the entire United States all by train track? And like as soon as I got that thought, I was like, I knew I had to do it. Like I feel like I was born to do this walk, because it's kind of like part of the thing I really like about my walking with like the Paris walk and the Barcelona walk. It's like these are things no one's ever done. And I like that theme. And so I was like, here's another walk that's never been done. Like freaking, so yeah, I just got the idea of like Atlantic to the Pacific all by railroad track. And that's my freaking next project. And I'm like, I'm so excited. I'm so scared. It's everything. but I feel like it's definitely going to be kind of my it's definitely going to be my greatest walk, to date. And I'm just ecstatic about it. Like when I walk on the tracks, I'm just content, like 100%. I know that I'm going to like find cool, weird little secret spots to do graffiti and just all kinds of, scenery that like a lot of people haven't seen, and I love that aspect of it too, is like being in places that nobody's been, even like the track walking I've done in like the area that I'm in, like I know that like no one's really been in a lot of these places, these long stretches between two towns that are in the country, there's no reason anyone would ever go there. And I love that. So
Yeah, I live by some train tracks out in up here in Washington, and it's like my favorite. I go walk my dog on the tracks, wait for the trains, and it's I think I heard you talking about it. I think this is a perfect walk for you, and it's perfect because it's that middle space. There's a little nature, there's a little city. It fits with the
exactly.
graffiti.
You get me.
Dude, I think it's great. I'm in full support. I'm really excited for you to be able to kind of get started on it. I've already,
Thank
like I said, I found you on YouTube too, and you're already kind of doing that, walking in your area on the
Yep.
tracks. And so,
Yep.
yeah, I think that's definitely, it's kind of like the evolution of your name. You had kind of a mentor that pushed you in that direction to kind of
Yep.
evolve your name. And then same thing happened with your like kind of walking project.
Yeah, exactly. I love how it came about, kind of like organically. Um, yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so scared too. Like it's with a lot of the long distance walks I've done, I always, if there's a guidebook for it, I always get the guidebook, and those things tell you like, when's, the next town is 20 miles, so you always know like when to resupply and stuff. But this is going to be something that there's no guidebook for, so I got to like make my own guidebook for it. And it's just really, ooh, it's going into the unknown like no other walk I've ever done. I'm pretty comforted by the idea that like, okay, it's the railroad tracks, so they probably go through all the towns, you know what I mean? So, but resupplying is something that stresses me out. Water, and then what's really freaking me out is like bridges and tunnels, because like I'm gonna have to either go across those or find a way around them, and
Dude, and
it's
that's dicey. Yeah, that's
dicey.
that's
Yeah,
dicey. Just the other day, I was with my dog, and we're like running on this little bridge, and it's like on the tracks, and it's like, oh shit, she start to like fall her little paws through. I'm like, oh no, help, and you're like,
yes,
you start to get that little moment of panic, like I gotta get over this, like we gotta go,
yeah,
and so yeah, it's always just like kind of like I think a lot of preparedness and like staying calm. But what I can, it seems like I always have people tell me this when I take on like kind of like the unknown projects for myself is like they're like you've been preparing your whole life for this. Like you already have all the skills, right? And I
yes,
feel that way about
totally.
you for this project. It's like you already have everything you need inside of you
Yes,
and you
thank
have to
you.
be confident about it and
Yep,
just use your skills like you've been honing them for so long. And
yep.
this is like one of those things you just rely on. You won't, what you already know. And yeah, it's going to be super exciting. Let me ask you, how can people support your projects?
Um, they can support my projects by buying my books and art. Like right now, especially with the corona, I'm like I'm doing like two things, like working on building my English teaching online thing, and then
Hmm.
also like making tons of art and books, because I want to do like a book for every like long distance walk I've done. So I'm working on that, because kind of like how I said, like when I was first walking, it was never anything I was going to show anybody. But
Hmm.
now I've decided to show people. So now I want to like make books for all the different walks I've done. So I'm working on that. So um, they can support by yeah, by the books and the art, and just good vibes. Like I love just positivity and just spreading positivity and stuff, and just encouragement. I like to give it and I like to get it. It actually really helps, just like nice little messages and stuff. It like, I didn't used to believe in that, but like it really does. Like sometimes people like send a message and it'll like make my day and like motivate me, because yeah, I don't know, it can be hard, it's like a weird art or whatever I do. It's sometimes I think it's the awesomest thing ever, and then sometimes I think it's like the dumbest thing ever. I'm like, this is like so meaningless and stupid, So when people like send, nice comments and stuff, it's like it motivates me, it makes me feel good, and I feel like I'm giving back to people and people are stoked. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely like put up links for. I know you do like Big Cartel, and I've gotten some stuff from you, and I've been super stoked about it, and I'm
Yeah.
just like really excited to keep supporting your projects and kind of introduce you to maybe some of my Cena people. I think a lot of people
Sweet.
will kind of love what you're doing.
That's awesome. I
Uh,
appreciate that.
yeah, I really like, your style, your projects. They encompass like a lot of different things. I think a lot of people can be inspired about what you're doing. And just I definitely relate to, I like on one of yours, you're talking about like, a little self-deprecation.
Yeah.
A little like, I have the thing about like, limiting beliefs. I got like into like self-help. I used to think it was really corny, and
Yeah.
like, then I started to kind of just like read about like, how do you be a good leader? As I was exploring like opening my business, how would I want to
Yeah.
do that? In a new evolution of myself,
Yeah.
and like learning about that and really exploring like kind of the inside of my mind, and like
Yeah.
being okay with like, yeah, it is nice when people like tell you you're doing a cool thing, and it's really nice to tell other people that.
Yeah,
I
it
think
feels so
people
good both ways. I
yeah,
agree.
I think people look at like people doing cool projects and it's like, oh, they're just doing this, it's really easy. But behind all of those things, I think there's like really a lot of struggle that people don't see,
Oh yeah.
and a lot of, there's something that drives that passion. And
Yeah.
so I appreciate, your willingness to share it with everyone. I'm really glad that you opened up and started putting your art into the world. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really proud of you.
Thank
And like I
you.
said, I'm anything I can ever do to help. Let me know. I'm always here to be of service to you.
Thank you so much. You've always been really supportive. Like I've always loved our interactions and stuff, and I appreciate it so much. I
Of
was so
course.
It's so cool that we did this because I think we've been talking about it for a while, and I love when things
Dude,
come to fruition. It's the best.
it's funny. It's one of those like self-limiter things. Was like doing podcasts, as I started kind of like wanting to be like think about things a little deeper. I was like, how do I get like all my smart friends to want to or like people I thought were inspiring? How do I get
Yeah,
them to talk to me?
that's
Right.
awesome.
And so I was like, oh, I'm just going to tell people I have a podcast. And then I did like 20 episodes, but I never released any of them.
Oh, damn! I didn't know you
Right.
had 20 in the bank already. Like that's
And
awesome.
and then I like was just telling people I had a podcast. I even like reached out to you, do my podcast, but then it's like I didn't really have a podcast. It was just
Yeah.
recordings, and people like, oh, how can I see your podcast? And it was like a little embarrassing because I couldn't tell people where to look at it because I was like, I don't know if you had this experience where like you listen and then you're like, dude, I wouldn't say that a little different. I would say this a little different, and yeah, I get a little
Oh
hypercritical,
God. Yeah.
right? And then I'm like,
Yes.
I can't put this out. I can't put this out. So I like just sat on them for like 2 years. And then
Whoa.
yeah, I got like really anxious about it. And
Yeah.
then it was like, dude, I can't keep telling people to talk to me for my podcast when it's clear that I don't have one. So that like lie kind of like caught up with me.
That's so funny.
So then I was like, dude, just start putting them out. So
Dude,
then
fuck yeah.
yeah, coronavirus came. I like couldn't make an excuse of like time. My
Yep.
gym got shut down. So I have like a
Yep.
lot of free time. And I was like, dude, I wanted to talk to you. I have a few people that I'm like, during this time, I got to talk to these people. So yeah, I had to like, dude, in the last 2 weeks, I taught myself all this editing stuff. And I taught
Sweet.
myself all the skills to like, I built a website, I did everything. And
Damn.
now I've got the podcast. I submitted it to iTunes, so hopefully that'll happen.
Yes. Fuck
Yeah.
yeah.
Dude, if you ever need help with any of that, I have those skills now, so I'll be more than
Oh
happy
my
to help
God.
you.
I
It's
do want to
really
get into
easy.
that.
I
Yeah.
learned how to do a lot of it when I built my gym, right?
Ah, yeah.
I've just spent the last year teaching me myself a lot of those kind of skills. I'm doing all
Yep.
the branding for my gym,
Fuck yeah.
and all of that. Well, you saw, kind of I designed my whole gym and did
Yes,
that.
it looks really good.
Dude, whenever you're in Seattle, I want you to come by. I have
Dude, I'm
every
coming. I can't wait.
Dude, we'll go around. I'll show you out where I live. I live out near the mountains, and there's train
Sweet.
tracks. It's I
Oh
think
my
right in the
god.
mid, like kind of the mid space that you would maybe appreciate. I have some land out there. We can
Awesome.
we can do some camping, and yeah,
Yes.
uh,
Dude, I'm so down.
maybe at the end, anytime you come out, but end your walk, you come over here, and yeah, I'll make sure you're treated right when you're in Seattle. And
Yes.
like I said, I've had a lot of people over, really over my life, really mentor me
Yeah,
and give me a lot of skills, especially in this last 2 years.
yeah.
I've been like really changed my mindset and
That's awesome.
really trying to be open to people who have similar vision to me,
Yep.
right? And just being confident and like being open to opportunities. And so,
Hell yeah.
yeah, I want to be able to, any way I can help you. Like I said, I'm here to help.
Damn,
Okay.
thank you so much. And likewise, like I'm always here for you, like I don't know, just motivation. Like I'm just so impressed by you, like from the from the jujitsu to the MMA to like starting your own business, like your own school. That's got to be like a fucking crazy new adventure. Like so many new skills to learn and just so much I think it takes a lot of bravery to do that.
Dude, it's been,
So,
yeah, it's one of those things. It seems like, once the school opened, everyone's like, "Oh, it's so nice," and everything. It's like, dude, it was a year of like, well, 2 years of very scary, you know?
oh my
And it's
god.
just kind of pushing through it, relying on what you have. And, yeah, like I said, right as I was going through that process is right when I discovered you. And definitely like looking
That's
at your
cool.
art really like propelled me forward.
That's
So,
cool. That
you've already given a lot to me just through your
okay.
artwork. And so, just being able to talk to you, I'm really grateful that you took the time to speak with me today.
Oh,
And
hell yeah.
so,
Such an honor.
yeah, like I said, I'm always here to help, and I'd like to do another podcast down the road to check out like what you've accomplished.
Yes. Oh, dude, I'm down. Like it'd be so sweet like after I do the train track walking one to do a podcast. That would be so fun. I'll have so much to talk about.
For sure, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so I gotta get going here soon. I gotta go
Cool.
get some business working. But anything else you want to add, or anything last words?
Um, let's see. No, I think that's good. I'm just happy. I'm so grateful for this. It's been really, I was nervous, but you're comforting and chill, so it's been really enjoyable. So thank you.
Good, a little less stressful. I know I get really stressed about podcasts, so I
Yes.
hope it was like okay. And yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Hell yeah. My pleasure.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, and I'll reach out to you when I post this up. Okay.
All right, Cindy. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Later.
Later.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that episode and enjoyed hearing about Marcher Arrant and his background and his graffiti and his walking projects and everything else he has going on. If you want to support Marcher Arrant, check him out on Instagram at marcher.arrant, or you can also find him on Big Cartel at Marcher Arrant. So check him out and support his projects, send him nice messages, and yeah, check out trains, see if you can find his graffiti. Anyway, if you want to listen to some more conversations with me, some friends, and different people that I think are interesting, check out cindyhales.com. And thanks again for listening.